My name is Aaron, and I didn't come to the woods looking for peace. I came because there was nowhere else left to go. After my divorce, the apartment felt too quiet in the wrong way. Every sound echoed. The refrigerator hum felt louder than it should. My phone buzzed constantly, emails, reminders, people who needed something from me, but none of it meant anything anymore. I stopped answering calls. I stopped cooking. Some nights I sat on the floor with my back against the couch and stared at nothing until morning light crept through the blinds. When the forestry department posted a temporary posting for a remote trail monitoring position, I applied without thinking. Seasonal, isolated, no cell service, minimal human contact. The pay was terrible. The conditions were worse. I accepted immediately. They dropped me off at the edge of the woods just before sunset. No ceremony, no goodbye. Just a ranger in a mud-stained truck who handed me a map, pointed down a narrow trail, and said, "Cabin's about 2 miles in. Radio works most days. Supplies come once a month if weather allows." Then he hesitated. "Don't wander off the marked paths," he added. I laughed, because it sounded like something you'd say to a kid. He didn't smile back. The cabin was old but intact. 1 room, wood stove, a cot that creaked when I sat on it. There was a radio mounted to the wall, a logbook on the table, and a window facing the tree line. The forest pressed close on all sides, thick and dark, like it had grown deliberately around the place. That first night, the silence felt heavy, not peaceful, watchful. I told myself it was just nerves. The job itself was simple. Hike designated trails, check for fallen trees, erosion, signs of fire risk, log animal sightings, make sure no one was camping where they shouldn't be. Most days I didn't see another soul. That should have been comforting. Instead, it felt wrong. The woods didn't sound alive the way I expected. There were birds, yes, and insects during the day, but beneath that was a hollow quiet, like something was missing or holding its breath. On the 3rd day, I noticed footprints near the cabin. They weren't mine. Bare feet, large, deep impressions in the soft earth, toes splayed wide like they didn't quite know how to walk properly. They circled the cabin once, then disappeared into the trees. I radioed it in. Static answered me. That night, I locked the door for the first time. The dreams started soon after. I'd be standing at the edge of the woods, calling my own name, hearing it echo back, distorted, like someone else was wearing my voice wrong. I'd wake up soaked in sweat, heart pounding, the sound still ringing in my ears. One morning, I found the logbook open to a page I hadn't written. The handwriting was careful, neat. You should not stay after dark. I told myself I must have written it half asleep, but I hadn't. As the days passed, I started to feel like I was being watched, not from one direction, but from everywhere at once. The feeling followed me on the trails. I'd stop suddenly, convinced I heard footsteps behind me, only to find nothing there. No animals, no wind, just trees. One afternoon, while clearing brush near the eastern trail, I heard someone call out, "Aaron." My stomach dropped. No one knew my name out here. The voice came again, closer this time, familiar, gentle. It sounded like my sister. She'd died 3 years ago. I stood frozen, every instinct screaming at me to run, but my feet wouldn't move. The forest ahead of me shifted, branches bending slightly, like something tall was leaning between them. I turned and ran. I didn't stop until the cabin door slammed shut behind me. That night, something walked around the cabin. Slow footsteps, heavy, deliberate. They paused outside the window. I didn't look. I knew somehow that if I did, it would see me seeing it. The radio crackled to life just after midnight. "Aaron," the voice said. Male, calm, official. I lunged for it. Hello, this is Aaron." "Do not respond to voices after sunset," the voice continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "If you hear your name, remain inside. Lights off. Who is this? I whispered. Static swallowed the line. The next morning, there was a deer hanging from a tree near the trailhead. Its body was untouched. No blood. No signs of a struggle. Its face had been rearranged. The mouth stretched wider than it should have been, jaw unhinged. The eyes were gone. In their place were deep, dark hollows that seemed to look back at me anyway. Something was wrong with the forest. I tried to leave. The map didn't make sense anymore. Trails twisted where they hadn't before. Markers were missing, or worse, moved. Every direction felt wrong. Familiar landmarks were gone, replaced by dense growth that hadn't been there days earlier. After hours of walking, I ended up back at the cabin. Waiting for me on the table was another note. It learns fast. I stopped sleeping. At night, the thing outside the cabin mimicked sounds. My sister's laugh, my own voice. Sometimes it cried like a wounded animal. Other times, it spoke in fragments, sentences stolen from my memories. "You said you'd never leave," it whispered once, in my ex-wife's voice. I covered my ears and rocked back and forth until morning. On the 9th night, it knocked. 3 slow knocks. I held my breath. The handle turned. The door shook violently, wood groaning under impossible strength. I screamed into the radio, begging for help, for instructions, for anything. The radio answered, "You have stayed too long." The knocking stopped. Silence. Then something began scratching beneath the floorboards. I fled the cabin at dawn with nothing but the clothes on my back. I didn't care about the rules anymore. I ran blindly through the woods, branches tearing at my skin, lungs burning. Behind me, something followed, not chasing. Keeping pace, I could hear it breathing, wet, wrong. The trees thinned suddenly, and I burst into a clearing I didn't recognize. In the center stood a shape tall, impossibly thin, hunched like it had forgotten how to stand upright. Its skin looked stretched, too tight over sharp angles. Antlers crowned its skull, tangled with scraps of fabric and bone. It smiled at me, with my sister's face. I don't remember screaming. I remember waking up in a hospital bed. They said a hiker found me collapsed near the highway, miles from the forest, dehydrated, hypothermic, raving. The forestry department denied everything. No cabin, no assignment, no record of my name. They told me I imagined it, but sometimes, late at night, my phone lights up. No number, just a message. You left something behind. And outside my window, when the world is quiet and dark, I hear footsteps, waiting, learning. I never liked New Year's Eve, even before what happened. There's something unsettling about the way everyone pretends that a specific minute on the clock can reset their lives. Like if you drink enough, kiss the right person, or make the right promise at midnight, everything broken inside you will magically fix itself. That year, I was 31, recently single, and painfully aware of how quiet my life had become. Most of my friends were married, engaged, or busy pretending they weren't miserable. I didn't want to go out, but I also didn't want to be alone when the year changed. That felt dangerous in a way I couldn't explain. So, when my coworker Evan invited me to a small New Year's gathering at his family's cabin, I said yes without asking many questions. The cabin was about 2 hours outside the city, deep in a wooded area that barely showed up on GPS. Evan said his uncle used it as a hunting lodge years ago, but now it mostly sat empty. A few people from work were going nothing wild, just drinks, food, music, and a fireplace. Bad cell service, Evan warned me earlier that day. Honestly, that's probably good, I told him. I didn't know how much I'd regret that sentence. We arrived just before sunset. The cabin looked older than I expected. Dark wood, narrow windows, and a porch that creaked when you stepped on it. Snow covered the ground in uneven patches. and the trees around the cabin were tall and packed close together, like they were leaning in to listen. Inside, things felt normal, too normal. Someone had brought speakers, someone else brought cheap champagne, and by 9 p.m, people were already tipsy and loud. The fire crackled, laughter bounced off the walls. For a while, I relaxed. Around 10:30, I stepped outside to get some air. That's when I noticed the footprints. They started at the edge of the tree line and stopped about 10 feet from the cabin. Bare footprints, no shoes, no socks. It was freezing. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at them, trying to make sense of it. Maybe someone went outside barefoot as a joke, but the footprints weren't playful. They were deep, uneven, like whoever made them was standing still for a long time. Facing the cabin, I went back inside and told myself I was overthinking it. At 11:40, the music cut out. Not faded, not lowered, just gone. A few people groaned and checked their phones. Evan fiddled with the speaker, then frowned. "No signal," he said. "That's weird. It was working earlier." Someone joked about haunted cabins. Someone else laughed too loudly. The mood shifted, just slightly, like the air pressure dropped. At 11:58, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then stayed on. "Okay, that's not funny," someone said. We all watched the clock on the microwave tick closer to midnight. 10 seconds, 9, 8. At exactly 12, every light in the cabin went out. Total darkness. No music, no fire, no sound except our breathing. Then someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks. Nobody moved. I remember thinking it had to be Evan messing with us. He was standing closest to the door, after all. But when I turned toward him, I could barely make out his shape and he wasn't moving. The knocking came again. This time, I heard something else beneath it. Breathing. Heavy, wet, right on the other side of the door. Evan finally spoke. "Who's there?" There was a pause, long enough for my skin to crawl. Then a voice answered. It sounded exactly like mine. "Let me in," it said. Someone screamed. I stumbled backward, hit the table, nearly fell. Evan swore and yanked the door open before anyone could stop him. There was no one there, just the snow, the trees, and the footprints. They were closer now. The light snapped back on. Everyone started talking at once, arguing, laughing nervously, accusing Evan of staging some elaborate prank. He swore he hadn't. I believed him. His hands were shaking. I wanted to leave. I said so. A few others agreed, but Evan insisted we waited out until morning. The road was icy. The cars were parked a mile down the trail, and, as he reminded us, there was no signal anyway. Against my better judgment, I stayed. We locked the door. At 12:17 a.m., someone upstairs screamed. We rushed up the narrow staircase to find Mara, one of Evan's cousins, standing in the hallway, pale and wide-eyed. "She's in the bedroom," Mara whispered. "She's standing in the corner." We crept into the room together. It was empty. The window was open. Snow had blown inside, melting onto the floor, and carved into the frost on the glass were 4 words. "You said you'd stay." Nobody could explain it. One by one, people started admitting strange things. Someone swore they heard their mother calling their name from the woods. Another said they saw someone standing between the trees, waving. Evan finally confessed that his uncle, the original owner of the cabin, had gone missing here on New Year's Eve 20 years ago. He'd stepped outside at midnight and never come back. At 1:03 a.m., the knocking started again. This time, it wasn't just the door. It came from the walls, from the floor, from the ceiling. Slow, methodical, like fingers tapping, testing. Then the voices started, all of them familiar. Parents, exes, friends, ourselves, each one saying the same thing. "Open the door. You promised." It's cold out here. Something slammed against the door so hard the frame cracked. That's when we ran. We didn't bother with coats. We didn't bother with supplies. We tore through the snow toward the trail, slipping, screaming, falling over each other. Behind us, the cabin lights flickered on and off like a heartbeat. I don't remember much of the run, just the sound of footsteps that didn't belong to any of us, keeping pace no matter how fast we went. We reached the cars just as the first hint of dawn touched the sky. The sound stopped. Every car started on the first try. We drove straight to the nearest town and didn't stop until we saw other people, real people. Police searched the cabin later that day. They found no signs of forced entry, no footprints, no damage. The cabin, they said, had burned down years ago. There was nothing there to search. Evan stopped talking to all of us after that, moved away, changed his number. Mara won't even say the words New Year's Eve anymore. As for me, I don't celebrate it. Every year, when midnight comes, I sit perfectly still, lights on, doors locked, because sometimes, right before the clock hits 12, I hear knocking, 3 slow taps from inside the walls.